Hi guys, it's Evan Wilder from Wilder Entertainment, and I just actually want to say to you guys that I'm actually still here. I know that I've been a little busy, and I know it seems like I haven't been able to make one of these messages in the last month or so, but I have been really incredibly busy, sometimes in a good way and sometimes in a bad way, but I'm just really glad that I finally got the chance to be able to talk to you guys face to face. Now, first of all, before we go on, I have a lot to talk about. I mean, it's been a month, and honestly, yes, I'm going to have a lot to talk about. So, for those of you who love watching a video, I just want to let you know that I have taken the time to create the best lighting possible, so you can see this beautiful mug. But for those of you guys who may be writing a script or writing a bus, or just whatever, and you don't have the patience to actually look at a video for an hour or so with just a guy talking to you, and I have actually attached the MP3, so you guys will actually be able to listen to that. So without that further ado, I will actually want to talk to you guys something very very important to me before we get down to the details of Wilder Entertainment. So without that said, let's segue to that. Okay. Now, first and foremost, I have the outline right here, so I'm actually able to see what I'm talking about, so I don't drift off into topic. But as I was saying, lately, over the past few months, and especially the last month in November, I've been thinking about why Wilder Entertainment should actually exist, and I've been thinking about how the world keeps constantly changes. And yes, I know the news just loves to talk about that, how things are changing. You just can't get enough of that in the news. The news just loves saying, "Oh my gosh, things are changing. Things are going to be incredibly different," and it does get kind of old hearing that from the news a bit. But at the same time, it's very real to look at these changes. Now, I was thinking about 20 years ago now, yes, I'm just going to throw a few examples out there that even the realm of television, before, if you want to watch your show, you had to actually sit down, 20 years ago, sit down at a TV, and God forbid you have a couch so you don't have to sit on the floor, and God forbid you had a carpet instead of wooden floors, and had to sit down and you had to actually watch the television at this certain time. And if you did not catch that show at that time, you were SOL, buddy. You were just done for. And now we have our own television and our own television set in our own pockets, and we call that a smartphone. And even the realm of music, like before, if you actually want to be famous on a national level, you had to know some people. Now you can become a local MC, but you don't. But your popularity doesn't just like spread to the town. Like one guy in Detroit whose famous song is still stuck in my head. Takes money to make money, can't let it get away from me. Yeah, it's stuck in my head. You gonna know why? They overplayed that song in Detroit. But that's another topic. What I want to say is that now you can be a local MC on SoundCloud, and your influence not only can just be national, but it can be global if you want it to be. And it's to say that a lot of things change, even the way we communicate with each other, and even the thought of just saying that we have robots in our daily lives. I mean, that thought would be unheard of 20 years ago, and now we have robots in our lives. Even the software robots, when you click on one video on YouTube about cooking, and suddenly you just want to learn how to cook, so you cook that one meal, but instead YouTube's like showing you all these cooking channels, and you're like, no, YouTube, I don't want to see those many cooking channels. Yeah, thank your lucky robot for that one. That was the robot fault. But it's not just our lives, our daily lives are have so many robots. It's the fact that we have even physical robots popping up in our everyday lives, like these drones. They're actually being piloted for filmmaking and even just for commercial marketing, which is done by TGIF in UK. And I will actually send a link in below. Either way, I'm gonna write that down because I'm gonna say a lot of things in here that I will have to actually end up uh, getting references to. I like to cite all my resources. You guys know that already. So I'm gonna say a lot of things, but I also know I can back them up with proof. So I have a notebook there, so I can actually know what resources to find when it comes time for that. So anyway, as I was actually saying, it's just that things are just changed in the last 20 years, and now, as I've been saying, even things are changing on an economic level. Like I've been saying, how the BRIC nations are setting up their own bank to rival the World Bank. And again, I've actually have evidence for that too. I'll put that in the email messages I have sent you, and even things are changing on the economic level as well. Even the I don't think it's called a Singaporean dollar. I'm not sure, but I know it's fully convertible with the Chinese renminbi, and more and more things are starting to actually change on the economic front than things were 20 years ago. And now it's not just and now it's just that things are just changing in our everyday lives. It's that these changes in our everyday lives, we just take them for granted every now and then. And I see that now we have cell phones, and now we have these furious birds that are so freaking suicidal that they take out their anger in suicidal ways by banging their heads against walls and stuff. And it's just that the point I'm trying to get to is that how is Wilder Entertainment going to deal with all these changes, and why should Wilder Entertainment actually exist? And that's something I want you guys to think about as I'm talking throughout the rest of these really incredible details I will be talking to you guys about. So, without that further ado, I just had to get that off my chest and just really segue into the next topic as well. So, yeah. So, one thing as I've been saying, like, one of the reasons why I have been very, very busy is because I have been working on a business known as Flowly Audio. Now, most of you guys, if not all of you guys, do not know what Flowly Audio is. Flowly Audio is basically a podcast editing service. And I actually have been working on that business almost. It has literally borderline between part time to full time with that business as well. Doesn't mean I'm leaving Wild Entertainment. I'm still on the team. I'm still here. But one of the things that kind of angered me about the whole freelancing thing is the fact that, yeah, I still have to put food on the table. I still have to get a budget ready. I still have to be able to get enough money for a passport. And here I am. I have to do all these freelance works, and it's taking time away from modern entertainment. So basically, I decided to get into a niche that I knew a lot about, which was podcasting. And basically, I decided to find a way to serve podcasters over there. And one of my main missions for Foley Audio is that the business will actually be able to run itself, so I can focus full time on water entertainment. And that's actually one of the really crucial reasons why I'm actually starting Foley Audio. Yes, I do care about podcasting. Yes, I do want the business to serve podcasters in a way they have never been served by any other business in that niche before. But I also want to actually be able to take the time to be able to focus, not just to not just to make a living and then sacrifice my time I could have spent on working on wild entertainment, but also be able to have a business run itself, be profitable, while also be working full time on wild entertainment without having to do any weird moving jobs or having to do 16-hour factory shifts. Yeah, you guys still remember that one, don't you? So that's kind of one of the main reasons I've been working on Foliato, and it's a really different business as opposed to the moving jobs. It's something that I can actually build upon, and I do enjoy the people that I work with, and I am definitely going to continue to grow that business as well, so I can focus more on this one as well. So I have been incredibly busy as well. But on the good news though, we did make our first sale about last week, and it's a transitioning point. We're not we're not there yet. I'm not there to the point where I can just leave the business alone. So I still have to end up working on it. And even when the business becomes fully lucrative and fully take control of my in of what am I gonna say? What I'm looking for. Even when the business starts becoming lucrative to the point where it is substantial, I think I will probably still be working on that business not as much as as much as I can, but to be honest, I mean, I'm really more focused on wider entertainment as a whole right now, and I have I have been trying to find a way to actually be able to. I'm losing my track of words, and this is coming out so wrong. Okay, start over. Eventually, I want to get Floyal to the point where it can be lucrative enough where I don't have to spend a lot of time on it while focusing on water entertainment. Okay, now that sounds really good. So basically, that's what I want to say. So if you guys want to check out the website of Flowly Audio, just go to flowlyaudio.com. I'm also available on Flowly at Flowly Audio, Flowly Audio at on Twitter, at Flowly Audio on Twitter, and you can also find me on Reddit. So I'm not too far away from there, so you can find me there. So recently, I said like a month before, I was going to be focusing on doing crowdfunding campaigns for the network, and I believe last month I did originally say that it was going to be a crowd it was going to be a it was going to be a crowdfunding campaign for the entire animation networks, and honestly, there wasn't a crowdfunding campaign that was going to happen in November. I I think I kind of found out midway through, but honestly, the more I thought about it, the more I thought about doing a crowdfunding campaign for just Wilder Entertainment, the more sense it made for me to check off and make sure everything was actually working pretty well. So basically, I decided to actually look for, okay, what is the minimum number of people that I can actually take on or be able to work alongside with when it comes to building the first round of crowdfunding campaign. And this excluded a lot of the animators, a lot of the in-betweeners, a lot of the key animators, and I just focused on the creative people, like what would be needed. So I'm focusing on hiring the casting agents, or I'm focusing on hiring the main actors, but not the supporting actors, or I'm focusing on writers, definitely the writers as well. But more importantly, I was more focused on the marketing team, and the more and more I started focusing on what would be needed at first to get Wilder Entertainment to get its foot on the ground in order to actually get it established and be able to introduce ourselves, saying like, "Hi, we're Wilder Entertainment, and we like to make really great cartoons." And the more I focus on that, the more I start finding out that okay, if I could start off on the right foot as much as possible, what would I need? And one of the things I decided was that starting a single crowdfunding campaign for Wilder Entertainment would probably be foolish. To be honest, the reason why I say it would probably be foolish to start a single crowdfunding campaign for Wilder Entertainment, especially as the first rounds, because a lot of our networks that we're actually supporting around tend to be niche a little bit. So what I mean by that is that Wilder Entertainment actually hosts three networks, and one of them is for a web series network. All the shows are like 11 minutes long, and some of them are funny, some of them are serious. But the main point of it is that all the episodes for the web series on that network is basically 11 minutes long. And we also have like another network. It's a comedy network, and this one's a bit more full TV length. So it's like 30 minutes per show, and it's a comedy, and all of them are actually comedies. I sent you all the scripts. You guys read it. Those are the comedies going to be on there, and they're usually these very long scripts, very heavily descriptive, and those are the comedy scripts. So they're usually 30 minutes long. They're different from the web series network just because of the length. And then you got this other third network, and this third network is actually more focused towards action and adventure, and is actually more focused towards like even mystery, even drama as well, but more towards focus on like darker elements. So when I look at these three networks, they're both geared towards three different audiences as well. So my initial plan was to run Wilder Entertainment as a crowdfunding campaign and just raise it for $20,000, which is kind of looking at it as kind of ridiculously low. But instead, I think it would probably be a better idea just to crowdfund each individual network for the first round of crowdfunding campaign. And as the video goes deeper, it will actually end up explaining more and more why I'm more focused on doing each network and getting everything up and ready. Because as it turns out, one of the things I'm actually much more focused on and actually I'm actually doing is actually generating a global audience for these three networks and the shows that these three networks actually end up hosting. So that's one thing I'm actually want to host it. Now this isn't part of the notes. I'm gonna venture off from the outline a bit, but I'm actually going to more venture into a tangent. So I have been doing some research on multi-channel networks, and for some of you guys who don't know what a multi-channel network is, think of it as a television network on the internet. So basically, these would be like networks that own channels. And I looked at a lot of these channels, and one of the things you can kind of walk away from these multi-channel networks is that they're very personality driven. Now, what I mean by that is that you go to their website and they see like, okay, where are the shows that we host? And you see like these comedians and these actors and these personalities, and they actually host a show. And basically, one things I kind of realized that will separate us from a lot of these multi-channel networks is, well, two things really. Number one, we're more focused on generating a global audience, and I will definitely go in more detail on that. But number two is that we're more towards franchise driven. We're more towards creating shows instead of just personalities as well. And I think that's one of the main differences I've actually seen between us and them. So that's one of the things. It's a short tangent, but I'm gonna go right back to the outline right now. So yeah, there were no crowdfunding campaigns in November. I'm thinking about doing one in January, no later than February. I still have plans to premiere all the shows in February 2016, to 2016. But right now, I'm more focused on internationalization for all these networks and generating a network for basically all these networks as well. So that's one of the things I'm really incredibly focused on right now. And some of you guys will be wondering, like, well, what's the second round of crowdfunding looks like? It'll be most likely for each individual show. So the first round of show will be like getting like the initial talent and getting everything handled and even getting the social media presence and around the world, not just using American made, not just using American made uh, tech company software because I did a lot of research, and sometimes I really wish that Google wasn't really banned in China. Still, I did the research on that, and basically, when it really comes down to it, a lot of countries, especially Russia and China, you have to understand that Google is more than just a search engine network. It's more than just a search engine. It's actually a spy network because they do keep track of your searches, and especially if you have like a profile, that even makes it 10 times more easier. And a lot of countries they don't like they don't like being spied upon. I think that goes for humans, but it goes for countries even more so. So when I was doing my research on a lot of these social media sites and around the world, a lot of these sites tend to ban Google. They tend to ban Wikipedia. They tend to. I don't think they ban Wikipedia, but they try to make Wikipedia very irrelevant because one of the things they really want to do is that they want to create homegrown social media sites. So you got all these sites on in China. You got these sites for like Tudu and Siniwubu. I think that's like a Chinese version of Twitter with its own taste and everything. And a lot of these countries, they don't want to stick with American-made social media platforms. They truly want their own homegrown social media technologies. So with Russia, they're creating their own email address with Yandex or something. I even got the browser on my own computer, and it's a little faster for some sites. So I have been using that as well. But in retrospect, it has a lot of these countries they don't want to use a lot of the American made, a lot of American made social media platforms, which is kind of strange at the same time because as we're going to continue further, we're going to find out that a lot of people, especially in China, they love foreign brands. So I'm guessing it's more of a political thing that they don't want these social media sites in their a lot of these social media sites in their midst, and it's just a population that tends to like Starbucks for being foreign and kind of gravitate towards that. So we're gonna be more focused on telling you more about how people love foreign brands. But just keep that in mind that a lot of these other countries, they want their own technologies. They don't want to rely on American technologies, and they will probably go to the furthest extreme to create their own, especially as China such as block out of. I'm not sure if they blocked out Twitter still. I know Facebook may still be blocked out. I know Google for sure is blocked out. I checked that yesterday or 2 days ago. It is surely still blocked out. But a lot of these countries, they just want to create their own homegrown social media sites, and that's kind of what I'm going to say. But yes, that's but one. But what was I talking about? As I was saying, as I was saying, the first round for crowdfunding, we're just getting the initial talent, and we're just gonna focus on. Yeah, now I know how I got there. We're getting the first initial talent, and we're just gonna focus on getting marketing teams for each region. So Latin American region, Asian region, and African region. They're very important too. They're like a fastest growing technology constantly going on right now. So that's actually pretty good too. So I'm actually going to be more focused. I'm actually more focused on that. So now we get to go to the interesting parts. Like I was saying, if you enjoy my little rant about how China does not want other technologies in their midst, and you're going to enjoy the next segues because man, they are all focused on other countries. So like I've been saying, I have been researching China, especially within very recently. I've been researching China and their practices, and things are different, very different. And part of it, I may still retain a bit, but let's just say that registering a domain in China, it's a little harder to do. It's a little harder to do, or I don't want to say harder. Harder is not the word I'm looking for. The word I'm looking for is complex because in America, all you have to do is register your domain name and just put in some profits, and then you can then decide if you want to actually register it. And with China, it's more like, well, you got to capitalize on it first, and you got to also have it's more of a legalize first and then get the domain. So in America, it's more like test it out first and then legalize it. And in China, it's more of a legalize it and then test, and then you can test it out. And the thing about it is that there's a lot more paperwork involved with registering a business in China. And some of you guys are me trying to figure out, like, well, Evan, why are you trying to market to China? I mean, isn't our group isn't American isn't like American people our audience? And yes, they are. They are. I mean, for the English voice actors and for the English production of the show, yes, American audience are still our audience, just like people in China are still our audience. The only difference is that there's probably going to be a voice translation, probably going to be more of a voice dubbing and voice translations in between those two versions. But yes, they're both our audiences. It's just that it's one of those markets that how do I put this? It's like I don't know the word I'm looking for. I'm gonna mess up this analogy, but it's like a kidney stone. It kind of hurts at first when you have to pee through it, but then eventually you go through it, and then everything is better. And that's the kind of an example I have because honestly, I've been doing some research on the China society and not just the economy, but even how the government works in there. And from what I can actually gather, basically they have a tight they have a tight grip on how things work in their country, except for Hong Kong. That's a special administrative region that was actually given to them by the British colony in 1997. But again, even that, I'll probably talk about the umbrella revolution that's going on over there briefly over there. But as I was saying, they seem to have a very tight grip what's going on over there. And so basically, the way that China works is that if it wants to experiment, it does it very, very cautiously. And I've been noticing this when it comes to these tier cities. Now, some of you guys been trying to figure out, well, what's a tier city? Well, I remember, from what I can actually gather, or what I can actually remember on point right now, let's see if I can remember, when China would actually want to experiment how these cities will actually prosper economically, they would actually do these experiments. And the first cities that were done the experiments, the very first cities that were done in this wave of experiments, they're called Tier 1 cities. And then, once those cities became popular and successful, they said, okay, those cities work. Let's do a whole second wave. And those are called Tier 2 cities. And then once those cities work, they're like, okay, well, let's do a third wave of of these economic experiments, and they're called tier three, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And for what I can actually gather, they have a very tight grip, but they loosen things. They it's almost how do I actually say it? It's like they have a very tight hand on a soap that they don't want to let go, but little by little, inch by inch, literally, or I should say millimeter by millimeter is the exact way of actually describing this. It's the best way I can actually describe how they are letting go of their state regulations for these experiments to happen. So it is still tight. It is a still tightly held system, but they're experimenting a bit, and even when they do that, they're they they still like to be involved. How do I say that? They like to be more involved. So yes, so in the United States and America, I mean, in America, I would say that the government is more involved, like probably like 10% of the time, and here when it comes to China, it's like they're involved in like from beginning, sometimes the middle, and when taxes are paid. So that's one thing I have been looking into. I've been noticing that. But getting back on topic, why market in China? Well, as I've been saying before, there are a lot of countries that are probably leaving the United States. What exactly do I mean by that? Well, let's see. I gotta figure this out because I okay. Besides, a lot of countries are leaving. Oh yeah, now I remember. Bilateral trades. Now I remember. Bilateral trades. There are a lot of opportunities. So a lot of these countries, they're actually pursuing these bilateral trades with China, and they're actually doing it more and more, slowly but surely. But they're actually really, really doing it as well. And a lot of these countries, even I heard this one story about this. I'm getting the stories mixed up. I'm so sorry, but I remember there was either this English ambassador or this English minister, and he was actually accidentally born an American citizen, and the IRS wants him to pay his taxes. And basically, even he's saying like, no, I'm not going to do that at all. And basically, a lot of countries and their perception of the United States, it's not very good. So a lot of them are actually seeking new ways of actually pursuing other ways of actually making income. Actually, end up not income, to actually pursuing more opportunities and more national trades with other countries like China as well. So that's one thing I just want to say. But it's not just that China's actually doing bilateral trades with all these other countries, like with India or Russia, or the fact that there's a thing called the BRIC nations as well. But it's the fact that, from what I've gathered in my research, is that a lot of people in China, they're actually coming up of age when a time of their with the internet. Let me rephrase that sentence. They're coming up during a time where they're getting their hands on the internet. Now you have to understand that in the United States, we are familiar with malls and shopping malls, and we know where to meet up with each other, And with China, more than likely, the the internet practices in China is vastly more different than they are in America. So in America, yes, we still enjoy talking to each other face to face, but in China, they love talking, on a computer. They love doing things on a digital. In fact, in America, we usually tend to go to the actual website to buy the stuff if we need to. And in China, everything is basically on a platform. So if you actually have a reputable platform in China, then you're good to go. And if you have a great reputation on a platform, then you are really super to go. So because of these huge differences, how Nike sells to people in America, which is as opposed to like you have to go to a store, you have to buy the shoes, or you could go to the website and you could probably order shoes. In China, Nike has to actually be on a platform in order to get their stuff showed to the Chinese consumer as well. So more than likely, people are coming of age with the internet and be able to actually talk and actually do a lot of their purchasing on the internet. So think of the Chinese consumer as millennials supercharged on the freaking internet. So basically, another thing I've been noticing a lot with these Eastern countries is that they tend to actually becoming more wealthier, and there's actually a bigger middle class that's actually coming up. So basically, people are coming more wealthier in the East, and like we said, because their incomes are actually growing larger and larger and larger, that also means they're also going to have disposable income. Now, there's a few things I should actually say. Uh, I'm hearing two contracting opinions on what's going on. Some people tell me that entertainment is not really a life and death situation, and some people telling me that in times of depression, that entertainment is one of those things that tends to goes through the roof. So that remains to be seen. But what we do know that is with disposable income, a lot of people tend to want to spend their money on entertainment, i.e., us. So that's one of the things I'm actually looking forward to actually doing. But one of the bigger things that you just can't ignore is that there's about 500 million people in China that are on the internet. 500 million. And to help you put that number into perspective, think about your local American neighborhood. Think about the United States. How many people do you think are United States are online right now? Because I sure as hell know it's not 500. It's not even 400. And we're just about to crop up to 300. But from what I last checked, it is 291 million people in the United States that are on the internet. So basically, you have a larger internet market. You have a lot of people who are getting more disposable income into their pockets, and they're online all the time, or mostly on the time. I wouldn't say that they're online all the time, but they're growing more prevalent. Is what I'm trying to say. They're becoming more and more prevalent. I mean, it's a market you can't really ignore. You can't ignore even if you wanted to, and that's why you see a lot of these big players. And I have did the research on this yesterday, by the way. Apple's actually in China right now. Nike's actually involved in China right now, and even Starbucks is actually involved in China. So a lot of these companies that are actually American made, they're actually going all the way to China to actually sell to the Chinese consumer, and that's what I have been seeing, and that is why I'm actually focused on appearing to a global audience. I like to be in front of the Polk. I like to be so ahead of the Polk that I know where it's gonna hit like the next two turns. So that's kind of one of the things I've been looking into. But another thing I actually came across is that Chinese people love foreign brands. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're a foreign brand. I like being a foreign brand. Okay, so maybe that could work. So that's kind of one of the things. So, but yes, you have to go through a lot of bureaucratic red tape to get through the whole thing. And this is just me just shaking my head like it's gonna be worth it in the future. You gotta keep going. Gotta keep going. So that's kind of one of the things I've actually been really more focused on and doing my research for in the very recent past. So, like I said, it's very, very focused, and I'm really wanting to get into that market as well. But that's because I really want to get into that market. It doesn't mean that we're all going to be about China. It doesn't mean that. Like I said before, I mean, this is we want to appeal to people on a global audience, and I think one of the things we're going to see that's going to be a drastic difference between the first season of the shows we have now is that if you look at through each of those scripts, you can kind of say like, oh yeah, I can totally see this happening in America. Well, in the second season of our shows, because I don't want to toot our home too big. But in the second seasons of our shows, it's going to be more globally based. It's going to be it's going to feature more like settings in other countries, and some people can argue and say, well, why don't you just change the settings in the shows right now so to appeal to the global consumer? Because then it would not fit the story. You've seen this before. Like when you're watching a movie and it turns out like okay that one little detail does not really fit with the story, but then you end up finding out that they just whole like completely rewrote the whole thing. One very good example of this would be World War Z, where basically in one scene, basically he says at the he was at the Islamic, he was in Israel. He was in Israel, and he will say like, "Well, Russia, that's a dead zone," and then they actually changed the dubbing to India, and even before that, for more detail, the show had the movie went through like five freaking rewrites. So even then, you could kind of tell that the movie was a little bit off. And so that's one of the things I can't really do. I mean, I have to draw the line somewhere, and telling good stories is where I draw the line. So yes, we just have to deal with American-made cartoons for 1 year, and then we can focus on globally made cartoons. Does that mean I look at these cartoons any differently? No, I love them. They're awesome, great ideas. But at the same time, I can't just change the narrative or just change the location just to appeal to the Chinese consumer. It makes no sense, and basically you end up with a show that could have been great, but it ends up as mediocre, and I don't want to risk doing that. So that's kind of one of the things. But more importantly, I'm not going to be doing this all breaking into the Chinese market all by myself. There's a lot of nuances to any society, no matter what society you're involved with. There's a lot of nuances involved, and because there's a lot of details and a lot of nuances in how people like to be taught with, you don't want to actually make the wrong mistake, especially as a beginner, and especially when you're going to be crowdfunding the first round of shows. I mean, you don't want to piss away thousands and thousands of dollars just because you say like, well, I'm going to be cheap enough and I'm going to try to market to the Chinese consumer myself. That's stupid. So basically, and foolish. And one of the things I'm going to focus on is teaming up with marketing firms that are actually more experienced and talking in actually marketing to the Chinese consumer. And one of the person that has actually caught my eye goes is Frank Levin, and he actually owns this marketing firm by the name of Export Now, I think our case would be very, very different considering that we're more focused towards doing entertainment and selling apps and even online shows, not online shows, online businesses throughout the world. But other than that's other than that, because he usually does with export businesses in China, I think that I will be talking to him relatively soon about our case and seeing how that goes. So that's something I will definitely be doing in the very near future, and that's something I'll be looking into. So, yeah, another reason why I want to market to people in China because we don't live in a U.S. centric world anymore. It's a reality now. I can't look around that. Everything we do now is going to be global. Everything we say is going to be global. I mean, global, 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 global. I know we heard this like for the last 20 years, but We've also been hearing that, oh yeah, now local 20 somethings can start their own businesses and they're going to be just fine and all it needs a computer. Well, yes, things things have the world has become more flat that anyone can start a business now, but at the same time, more responsibilities are actually there, especially depending on the scope of your vision. And one of the things I have absolutely flat out have noticed is that I can't just appeal to people in America anymore. I mean, it's impossible. I can't do it and be successful in the long run. I don't see that happening. I have to actually talk to people from around the world. And yes, you can say it's a little easier, but it's a new responsibility. And instead of just thinking in terms of, oh, we can only talk to this country and talk to that country as well, unless you want to be super niche, as it really turns out, I have to end up talking to people around the world. Why do I want to do this? Again, one of the reasons why I really want to do this, not just so I can just show people all these great show ideas, but I really want to say is that each country's situations is going to be very different from another country. Like take for instance, you got Chile. They're actually very pro business right now, and they're actually very pro business right now. They even set up a portal to actually have people register their businesses online for a day and a day with the Chilean IRS. And next to that country is Argentina that has been through so many currency defaults, like it's not even funny anymore. Like seriously, I'm not even laughing. But honestly, each country has its own. Each country is starting to take more prevalence in the global market. It's not going to be just U.S. centric like we have been seeing in the last 60 years. It's going to be every single country is going to have something to say, and I feel that if I focus Wilder Entertainment towards focusing with global audiences around the world and catering to them, as well as American audience as well, we're not going to leave them out. We're not going to leave the Western audiences out at all. No one's saying that. I never advocated for that. I'm just saying that if we actually want to appeal to all these global audiences as well as the best way possible, then we have to start thinking more globally minded. We have to start being able to say, hey, our all the revenue that comes from Wilder Entertainment doesn't just come from one country, but they come from everyone around the world. And basically, in a creative sense, one of the reasons why I want to appeal to people from around the world because I have these ideas and I want to create these mobile games where people from around the world can actually talk to each other and play against each other. And that's actually one of the reasons why I want to appeal to people from around the world, from a creative side. And from a business side, some countries may have different rules than others. Some countries may not even exist in the next 20 years or so. And I want to be able to, I actually want to be able to appeal to global audience as a form of protection. And I feel that one of the best ways to do that is not just entering just a Chinese market, but just to enter and just any market as well. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I'm more focused on doing things in a global sense instead of just appealing to U.S. audience as well. We love you dearly, American audiences. We do. It's just that you're not the only ones that we care about. So yeah, so honestly, if I can narrow it down, there are actually three things I'm actually very concerned about when it comes to about Wilder Entertainment. So actually, it's actually four things. I should really change the outline of that, but it's actually really four things. So number one, as I've been harping on before, yes, internationalization. This and then one thing I just want to dispel all myths. Yes, everything will be reported. I mean, I just want to say that there's this huge stigma against internationalizing yourself because it means oh you're trying to avoid taxes and stuff. And you know, despite my personal reasons and my personal dislike for taxes, Again, I've been one to say we have to follow the rules straight to the T, no matter what, and that kind of, and basically, just because you want to internationalize yourself, even internationalize the business, does not mean you want to high taxes. You can't. Literally, even if you wanted to, you can't because, again, everything you say is recorded now. Everywhere you go is recorded now. I mean, there's no way you can literally say, well, I'm going to avoid taxes and paying taxes, especially when everything has actually end up being very connected. There's no reason to avoid taxes when you can actually become more profitable by following them. And yes, there's a I mean, and yes, I'm not gonna say I'm losing train of thought here. But what I was gonna actually end up saying is that you, good stories I don't know. Good stories have a harder time being told from prison, I guess. But I guess what I'm really trying to say is that it's much more better to follow the rules until they no longer have any relevance at this point. So yes, that's because you internationalize yourself. Does not mean you're trying to avoid taxes. It just means that you just want to make sure your income or the revenue for the business is coming from pretty much everywhere. And it just means that if it just means that what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to find the right word to say this. Ah, shoot, and I'm not, and I can't even edit this because it's both on video and edit. I've been talking for like 48 minutes. I'm trying to say that internationalization is a form of protection. And the reason why it's actually a form of protection is based because of laws. Now, yes, you have to follow the laws, you have to report all your income, and that's very important to do. But it's also more important to actually be able to protect yourself, be, e, especially if anything happens in one particular country, you're not beholden. That's what I really mean to say. So now that I end up thinking more globally, one of my concerns about the Hong Kong umbrella revolution is the encroaching power of the Chinese government. Now Hong Kong's a bit more free. It's a bit more liberal. I don't want to say it's not, and by liberal I don't mean by just by public demeanor, like the way we know like liberal or in a political sense the United States. I just mean that it's a bit more freer and easier to do things in Hong Kong. But sometimes the political landscape of a certain country can become unstable and it could change. If something like that happens and all of the business is actually in one country, you are pretty much screwed. But if you actually have like a whole bunch of companies all over the world, it makes better sense. And that's what I'm trying to actually say with internationalization. The reason why I really stretching out for internationalization is actually for two reasons. One, so we don't actually become financially hampered, but actually two, so we can keep telling freaking stories without being hampered. So yes, if we get screwed in one country, it's not the end of the world, and I think that is something to really be more focused on. So it's not just China I'm focusing on; it's actually the entire world. And I'm going to skip at. I'm not going to briefly talk about this tangent right here, but I actually want to talk about uh, tangible as investments as well, like gold, silver, and these are just backup plans in case things go horribly wrong, in case people don't want to actually have confidence in the U.S. dollar, and people aren't too sure about jumping on that renminbi ship, and also be able to have some hard assets so that way we'll be able to keep telling stories no matter what happens. That's kind of one of the reasons why I'm into that. I didn't know I didn't stress too much on that. We haven't got to the point where it's relevant to talk about that yet, but it's relevant now. It's a what I'm trying to say. It's a brief talking point at this point. And the third thing I actually want to talk about is that yeah, I do have plans to actually have every show backed by some tech company that will actually be able to get the show running continuously. So that is something I have been working on. It takes a lot of time. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of patience. Takes attention. but it's something that is worth doing, especially in this world that's constantly changing right now. But most importantly, it's more about just telling stories that need to be told. I look at Amazon and I look at these web shows, and I ask myself, how can Amazon afford to tell these shows? Oh, by the way, Amazon's actually in China as well. Looked it up yesterday. Anyway, Amazon is actually able. I know I'm not even gonna try to do that right now. I was gonna try to see if Netflix is actually in China. But what I'm saying, I see these networks, and it's the Netflix, and it's these Amazon and Hulu, even Hulu, and they have like the ability to tell these well-produced shows, these well-produced stories. Are they good? I haven't looked into it. I know Orange and New Black is a good show because I watch it, but other than that, how are they able to produce? I mean, why are these shows like able to produce really, really well? And when I really look into it, it's because it's the business model. The business model allows Amazon to literally produce the show, and that's what I'm trying to get with Water Entertainment. That's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to actually get the show to be produced by a lucrative business model, and that's kind of why crowdfunding. It's I don't know. I want to look at it as a way of giving our fans like really awesome stuff, but it should not be the hinging point of everything. And I never expected it to be. And it's a start off. It's a communication. Like, okay, you guys want this show really bad? Great. Let's get started. We need this much funding, but guess what? We got this awesome stuff, and you should really check it out. And I want to be able to use crowdfunding as a way of enhancing the experience of the not just the backers, but for the fans as well, and offer more exclusive stuff. And that's something I'm really looking into. That's something I'm more serious about than anything. It's the business model, but more importantly, it's about just telling stories that need to be told, and that's the that's the thing. I see a lot of these web shows. Like there's this one web show that has not been renewed for a ninth episode called Black and Single. Very smart comedy. Haven't seen any new episodes, and I'm guessing the business model didn't work. And one of the things I'm more focused on doing right now is creating a business model that allows not just me, but other people from around the world to be able to tell awesome stories with character development and memorable moments through, at first, animation and then eventually move on from there. But that's kind of one of the things I want to start off from there. So, those are the four things I'm actually more concerned about with Vital Entertainment. And we will move down. Wow, we've been talking for almost an hour. Wow, if you've been watching this, you've been looking at my sweet face for about 52 minutes right now, going on 53. And I'm very glad you guys actually took the chance to actually listen. But we're not done yet. I know. We're almost there. We're almost there. We're almost there. We only got like four more segues and we are almost done. But I didn't think I was going to be talking about this much stuff. But anyway, like I was saying, anyway, by the time you actually get these email messages or this newsletter, you guys will already know that I have bought this domain called GamerGator. Now some of you guys have been trying to figure out, wait, what's going on here? Now I just want to take a step down. Like throughout the last 3 months, I have been telling you guys about what's been going on with GamerGate, and long story short, it's about the game. People in games, people who like video games do not like corrupt media. So what's happening right now is that they are creating their own. They're creating their own solutions, and this is a solution I've been thinking about for the last month and a half, and I've been very very reluctant to take a to take part in Gamergate. Not because of not for any like it may destroy your reputation or something like that, but doing a business takes a lot of time. Like Water Entertainment, even Flowly Audio, that took a lot of time. And one of the reasons why I've been very reluctant and doing Gamergate, doing doing Gamer Gator is because it just takes a lot of time. It's just too much. It's too a lot of time. But then I realized that this is actually one of those can't miss opportunities, and I asked myself, will the world be a better place if this thing actually existed? Now, for some of you guys who want to know what Gamer Gator is, basically one of the problems is, and I'm actually going to be verifying this product before I've actually bought the domain. But if I bought the domain, right then it'll probably be for protection against any domain squatters. But one of the reasons why GamerGator is exist because back before the independent gaming scene was used to be very, the word we're looking for is controlled, mafia like, and to the extremes of you have to befriend this one developer or else you are screwed. And that's one of the main problems when it comes to when it comes to having any industry that concentrated. It tends to dilute itself and it tends to grow stale. I mean, look at the Hollywood movie scenes. Why is Michael Bay directing so many Transformer movies? Why do people keep going to Adam Sandler to see Grown Ups 2? Grown Ups 2. No one even liked the first one. I digress. The point of the reason is it was too concentrated. And so one of the things I really want to do is that I wanted to create a Gamer Gator as a way of anyone can become a video game journalist. Now, yes, we are going to have journalistic ethics involved with it, and we're actually going to focus on having journalism standards of ethics, and they will actually be prescribed. Not they will actually be. I will actually be talking with the gaming public, especially those involved with GamerGate, about what would that look like. What would a correct journalist ethics look like? And I'm starting to see these solutions crop up in GamerGate, and one of them is actually called Base Gamer. And what Base Gamer is basically an aggregate website for video game reviews, similar to Rotten Tomatoes. And I've been looking at that and saying, like, I think the world will be, especially, I think the world will be better off if GamerGator actually existed. So by the time you get this message, I would have already bought the domain, and I've already probably been speaking to a lot of people in the gaming public about the gaming public. That's a funny name. I'll already be speaking to about people in the gaming public about what should GamerGator be like. Is this a great idea? Is it worth doing? One of the main reasons why I bought the domain was to prevent domain squatters. And if it's a good idea, I'm going through with it, and I just got to find a way to factor that in with Foley Audio and Water Entertainment. And if it's not, then I can focus primarily on Water Entertainment. So, other than that, I'll be okay. So, I'm not too exactly worried about that. So, I just wanted to just be able to tell you guys about that, especially if you guys like video games, and especially if you guys have been paying close attention to Gamergate like I have been. So yeah. So I'm a little tired right now, but you know we're still gonna keep going. Still gonna keep going. We still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 segues, and we're almost done. All right. So what I'm doing right now with Water Entertainment. So right now I'm personally turning a Floaty Audio into a brand that serves podcasters, and it's basically going to be a business that kind of runs itself, so I can focus on wilder entertainment without freelancing creeping into the schedule, or worse, having freelancing creep in when I have to do crowdfunding campaigns. Because doing crowdfunding campaigns is a full time job, and doing them while also doing three of them, that's even worse. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm doing Foley Audio. I do love the people I work with in Foley Audio. It doesn't mean that it's just for the money. I mean, it's very important. I wouldn't start it if it wasn't for that. But I do want to create Foley Audio as a way to actually help podcasters solve their most intense problems as well. And that's one of my bigger projects with Foley Audio, creating a way for people to come to us, so that way I can be more focused on water entertainment. So that's kind of what I've been looking forward to. But aside from that, I'm also focusing on starting a few podcast shows, like I've been saying before in the last newsletters. I've been saying this over and over and over and over and over again. And one of the things I have been doing is that I haven't gotten around to recording any podcasts. I mean, I only recorded one, and I enjoyed it, and I have actually attached it. I've actually ended up attaching it to the email message, so you can actually hear the very first episode of the Animation Revolution podcast. And I had a very great fun talk with Rob McAllister, and we talked about his show, A New Tales of Earth Myth. Yeah. By the way, I haven't got a chance to read your script. As I've been saying, I've been incredibly busy. I'm very, very sorry. And no excuses, but I have super freaking busy. But, but that's just something I've been doing. But yes, I have been starting. I will be starting a few podcasts in the very near future. I'll also be doing a lot of vlogs in a very near future too. So that way, I'll be able to talk to my. I'll also be able to generate an audience and also be able to at least be able to work on my speaking. I've been learning how to speak to other people really, really well. I feel that by talking to people, not just through video, but in person as well, I'll become a better speaker. And I feel that doing it this way with a lot of podcasters, I have a lot on my mind. I have a lot to say. I have everything, a lot to say in my mind, and I feel that it is very necessary for me to say this, to say what I have to say on these podcasts. And I would definitely keep you guys up to date with what's going on. Just like I should really do a better job at that. Well, I am still keeping you guys up to date with what's going on. But I will definitely keep you guys up to date on the new podcast that's coming out. So that's great. Another thing I want to say is that I'm actually working on social media platforms. Um, registering anyway. Like I've been saying, I'm going to register on every single platform in the world, and it's not just going to be just one platform for each show. I'm saying it wrong. It's not going to be just one giant platform. It's going to be each individual platform. So the networks are going to have their own platform. The shows are going to have their own social media platforms and the not platform profiles, and the animation company will have their own profiles as well. So every single show is gonna have their own profile, with the exception with LinkedIn, because we're just gonna have focus on having that just for wider entertainment. But everything else, entertainment wise, to talk with our consumers and talk with everyone who loves our stuff, who will love our stuff, by the way. Uh, there's gonna be a whole bunch of profiles for each and every different show. So I would definitely be focusing on registering that as well. Another thing I want to focus on is registering which tech will be useful and where that'll come in for the uh, 200 page to 200 page production system I wrote. Which, by the way, I looked at it and it is a lot. And I have been thinking about this for about 6 months for a while, and I'm saying like, I'm especially if you're working with a global team, I'm gonna hire an infographic artist to write the to actually design the system process, so that way, it'll be easier to read and easier to comprehend. And it doesn't mean that nobody here knows how to comprehend, because I read the whole. I read it. I may have wrote that 200 pages, but it is not easy to read through. It is not, especially the whole marketing section. It is not easy to read through the entire 200 page, and I try reading through myself, and it's not easy, but it can be done. But I would definitely be focusing on doing the page. Oh God, I've been talking for like an hour. Okay, I would be more focused on doing. I'll be more focused on getting the researching which tech will be more useful when it comes to actually a collaboration, these collaboration softwares, and which one will not be, which one will not actually be, banned by a certain country. I want to use Skype, but that's Microsoft, and it's on that same level of Google. So but more importantly, I wrote like a whole bunch of forms in the plan, and I have to create those forms. So I'll also be working on those too. And then once all that is done, I'm gonna focus on hiring more the necessary people for the first round of crowdfunding. But right now, I am just like, I don't know why I'm tired right now. I don't look like I shouldn't be this tired. I don't know why. But yeah. But uh, but I'm gonna come back to what I said earlier before. I want to say that before, like an hour ago, I said that how is Wilder Entertainment going to be embracing all these changes? And like I said, everything changes. Everything like I think about all these jobs that are just being like taken away because all these ads are being like created, and you're like, well, it was gonna happen. Like I remember this one time when I was in Oregon, and well, our host from this, I would say woofing. So just I wasn't really a woofer. I was actually a help next exer, but as I say woofing, just to clarify, and I'll definitely put that what that is. But it's basically people who work on farms. How the hell? What the hell was I doing working on a farm? I should be doing this. Oh, the girlfriend. Totally forgot about that. Anyway, coming back to that. I love you very much, Ashley. By the way, I know you're watching this. But what I was saying is, I remember I was in Oregon, and our host, he was telling us about how it's legally mandatory that you have to have someone to pump the gas in the gas station into someone's car. And I just think about like in every single state I've been through, even the one I've actually grew up in, usually the passenger has to do that itself. Or even better yet, one thing my brother does is that he actually has the the, the gas pump ending the gas pump going into the car by itself. So I just think about how people pumping gas into a car is completely irrelevant, and that is not a job that will be kept in the very near future. And I kept thinking that everything is actually changing it, and that everything's going to be different, and it's going to be different in ways that we probably imagined, and in our older ages, especially for like 20 years old right now, or even in your later years or 40 years from now, things are going to be more different than we can ever even imagine. And we're going to be sitting here telling our kids, like, back in our day, we had these things called computers, but now all you gotta do is close your eyes and bam, you got a screen inside your head. And it's going to be even more bigger problems, and you're going to be hearing about people getting like hacked and killed off by their own pacemaker because some hacker was able to get into their pacemaker remotely. Yeah, and by the way, they can do that now, but it'll probably be more widespread in the near future. So for those of you guys who are smokers, yeah, stay healthy. Don't get a pacemaker. That's a joke. But anyway, like I was saying, it was like I remember that when I first started, that I wanted the Water Entertainment. Even the name was different. Evo Entertainment. It was Water Entertainment. Changed it. I changed it for a lot of reasons. I think I changed it because I wanted to make it less about me and more about the team. But anyway, like I was saying, I remember when we first started, I said, let's be the internet Pixar. And yet, that still meant something to me. And it still does, but I still feel that we can do better. I still feel that, in a way, we can go beyond that because technology is changing now. I mean, we now have virtual reality. Yes, it's probably at its infancy right now. We have cryptocurrency being invented right now, still being invented right now. We have geopolitical situations that are actually being reestablished right now. I mean, things are just changing, but I feel that the mission is much more different than that. I feel that there's no point in being the internet Pixar anymore. Pixar is great at being Pixar. It's a great thing to strive towards, but I think that we can do better. And I feel that our real mission is to actually use entertainment to transport people into different worlds. I legitimately feel that way now than I did feel about that a year ago. And I think I still felt that way, but I didn't know how to interpret it in a better way. And I feel that we can do this best with these apps, and we can do it with virtual reality. And who's to say that maybe a few years from now, or maybe 20 years or decades from now, it'll be virtual reality where you're actually in the world. I mean, who's to say that that can't happen? But I legitimately feel that that is our mission. I mean, I can spend all my time trying to be internet Pixar, or we could just find a way to use technology to transport people into other worlds any way that we can through entertainment. And I feel that is something that we're going to be working towards instead of just trying to be Pixar. No, do I have my gripes about Pixar? No. And yes, I will see that movie Inside Out, the new Pixar movie that's coming out in June 2015, if I'm still in the country. But next, I don't know. Other than that, what I am going to say, I'm thinking too hard about that. But what I am going to say is that that is kind of our mission to transport people into other worlds using technology, and I feel that that is something that we can actually grow into, no matter what the world ends up changing into, and that's something I just want to stick it to. That's just something I want to have and keep my mind into. So yeah, hopefully when we're done with all this stuff, I just want to say thank you for sticking by, especially if not just for the hour long message. And I know it's been an hour long because I'm looking at the freaking time. I don't know where you're watching this, but if you're looking down right there, yep, right down there, it's probably around here, probably around our area. An hour, you're looking at that, and it's been like an hour. But it's not just thanks for sticking around for the whole 1 hour. It's basically thanks for sticking around for a year. I know things have been relatively slow, and sometimes I feel that holy crap, why can't we get started right now? Honestly, I really think back to the time where I just wanted to start off this company off with just animators and writers if we'd be good, and then I find out that oh crap, I didn't even have compositors. It's sometimes that doing the more research I find that the more I'm thankful that I took my time instead of just rushing into it. But now at this point, I'm more focused on just doing it now. So yeah, and yes, I do know after a year of producing the episode and it premieres on YouTube, or if you're in Asia right now, Tudu or Yuko, you see that first episode and it premieres, and the first thing you're gonna say like, "Fucking finally, it's on." And when that happens, it'll be great because we'll be able to actually show, we'll actually be able to show the world that what we've been working for. And also, you'll probably be on a podcast and you'll be like, "Holy shit, I thought that shit would never get made," but we'll have a big laugh about that and on our podcast, The Animation Revolution, which is a good segue because I actually have the episode already made. So, I actually made the episode called the Animation Revolution Podcast. It's where I do interviews with people who actually work with Wilder Entertainment inside the business that's actually revolutionizing animation on a global scale. Yeah, I think I was thinking about that even way before then. But like I was saying, you can listen to the episode right after this one. Although right now, I'm pretty sure right now you guys are like, oh, I don't know. I don't even know. Maybe you guys want to listen to an hour of my voice, my awesome voice. But other than that, I'm just like tired of talking right now. So if you'd like to listen to more of Evan Wilder's voice, feel free to download the podcast, the Animation Revolution podcast, and on that episode we talk about Robert, we talk about his show, Tells the New Earth, and we go on from there, and we talk about more about Water Entertainment, and we talk more about the show. And we started off freaking nervous at first, but it's a really fun show. You will love it. You will definitely love it. So without further ado, like I said, I'm glad I recorded the MP3 version of this, and I'm also very glad that I recorded the show. I mean, the visual photos to show. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to get rid of that light and put it back where it needs to go, back over there. And I'm going to end the video right here and end the recording right here. So, goodbye, guys. I love listening to you all.